When was the last time you prayed? For some of us, prayer is as natural as breathing. It's part of our morning routine, our meals, and even the way we close our day. For others, prayer only shows up in moments of crisis. A doctor's report we weren't expecting. Bills piling up with no way out. A heartbreak that leaves us on our knees. In those moments, prayer feels like a lifeline. But outside of crisis, many people let it fade into the background. Now here's the fascinating thing. Across the world, billions of people pray every single day. Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and people of many other faiths lift their voices in different ways, but the common thread is this: prayer is a universal human expression. Whether whispered in a quiet room, chanted in a temple, or called out in a mosque, prayer is one of the most practiced spiritual habits on earth. But let me ask you this: did you know that some countries pray far more than others? And the top one may not be what you expect. You might assume that nations with huge populations automatically pray the most, or that wealthier countries with more churches or mosques would take the lead. But the reality? The nations where prayer is strongest often come from places you might not immediately think of. And what's even more interesting is what that reveals about culture, hardship, and the resilience of people's faith. In fact, the Bible reminds us of something powerful in 1 Thessalonians 5:17, pray without ceasing. That verse isn't just for individuals, it's a principle we can see reflected in entire societies. Some nations live this verse daily, not only in times of trouble, but in times of joy, gratitude, and peace as well. In this video, we're going to explore a global survey on prayer, digging into which countries pray the most and why. We'll look at some surprising results, uncover the cultural and spiritual reasons behind these patterns, and most importantly discover what it all teaches us about faith resilience and what it means to truly live a life of prayer in season and out of season. So stay with me, because the answer to the question, which country prays the most, might just surprise you. Why prayer matters globally at its core. Prayer is a universal human language. It doesn't always sound the same, and it doesn't always look the same, but in every culture, in every generation, people have found ways to lift their hearts beyond themselves, seeking help, expressing gratitude, or surrendering to something greater. At its simplest, prayer is an expression of faith, hope, and surrender. Think about it. In Christianity, prayer can be a quiet whisper, the Lord's Prayer, or spontaneous words from the heart. In Islam, prayer is structured and disciplined. 5 times daily, Muslims pause their day to bow toward Mecca. In Hinduism, prayer might mean chanting mantras, lighting lamps before deities, or offering flowers at a temple. In Buddhism, prayer often comes in the form of meditation, repeating sutras, or seeking inner stillness, and in African traditional religions, prayer can be rhythmic, involving song, drumming, or ancestral invocations, seeking protection, healing, and blessing. Different expressions, but the same heartbeat, whether whispered, sung, bowed, or danced. Prayer is humanity's oldest response to the mystery of life. And beyond the spiritual side, science has proven that prayer carries psychological benefits. Researchers have found that people who pray regularly experience lower levels of anxiety and stress, and higher levels of hope and resilience. In moments of crisis, prayer can calm racing thoughts and anchor a restless heart. It provides perspective, reminding us that we're not carrying life's burdens alone. But prayer is not just personal, it's deeply social. Communities gather to pray when disaster strikes, when a pandemic spreads, when war breaks out, or even during celebrations like weddings and festivals. Prayer unites people across divisions of wealth, status, or tribe. It's one of the few things that can bring thousands together under the same sky. lifting their voices for one purpose. And here's where it gets fascinating. While some parts of the world are becoming more secular, turning away from traditional faith practices, other regions are becoming more prayerful than ever. Europe, for example, has seen dramatic declines in daily prayer. Meanwhile, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East continue to record some of the highest prayer participation rates in the world. So the natural question is, which countries actually pray the most? And the answer may truly surprise you. Global survey findings. To answer this question, let's look at global surveys conducted by organizations like Pew Research and Gallup. These studies ask people all over the world about their faith practices, including prayer. The results are striking. In regions like Africa and the Middle East, over 80% of people say they pray daily. Compare that to places like Sweden or Denmark, where only about 10 to 15% pray daily. The contrast could not be sharper. Now, here's the surprise. According to multiple surveys, the country that consistently ranks at the very top is Afghanistan. Nearly 96% of Afghans say they pray every single day. Prayer in Afghanistan is not just a habit, it's a rhythm of life. Rooted in Islamic practice, prayer is interwoven into culture, family, and community. Coming close behind is Nigeria, where about 95% of people pray daily. What's unique about Nigeria is that it is both a massive Muslim and Christian population, and both communities put prayer at the very center of life. Whether it's the early morning call to prayer in the mosque or all-night prayer vigils in churches, prayer in Nigeria is as natural as breathing. Other countries with high levels of daily prayer include Senegal, Pakistan, India, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Indonesia. These societies treat prayer not as an optional practice, but as an expectation of daily living. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we find countries like China, where very few people report praying daily due to cultural secularism and government restrictions. On religion. In Western Europe, countries like the UK, France, and the Czech Republic, daily prayer rates are shockingly low, sometimes below 10%. For many in these societies, faith has been replaced by science, material success, or simply secular routines. Why the difference? It comes down to culture and context. In Afghanistan, Islam is deeply woven into daily schedules. 5 prayer times shape the flow of the entire day. In Nigeria, the fusion of Christianity and Islam means prayer saturates national life. Churches and mosques are packed, prayer vigils, fasting programs, and daily devotions are normal. In secular Europe, however, many view prayer as outdated or unnecessary, a relic of the past, so while prayer is fading in some corners of the world, it's alive and thriving, even exploding, in other. Why some nations pray more, so why exactly do some nations pray far more than others? The first reason is religion woven into daily life. In many Muslim-majority countries, for example, prayer is not optional, it's commanded and structured. 5 times a day, everything stops: work, school, business, even sports. That rhythm trains people to pray constantly. Second, hardship fuels prayer. Where there is poverty, war, or instability, people often turn to God for strength. Nations facing conflict, unemployment, or health crises often cling to prayer as their main source of hope. Think about it, when human systems fail, faith becomes the lifeline. Third, cultural traditions play a massive role. In Africa and Asia, prayer is rarely a private act. It is communal, done with family, friends, or the entire village. A Nigerian child grows up watching parents pray in the morning and at night. An Ethiopian family prays before meals. In India, prayer is tied into festivals, school routines, and daily chores. In contrast, wealthier and more secular nations often rely more on material success, healthcare systems, and technology to solve problems. They substitute faith with science or self-reliance. And while there's nothing wrong with advancement, it sometimes leaves little room for seeking God in daily life. Struggling nations, however, often cling to prayer not as an option but as survival. This is why the nations that pray most are often the ones that have endured the most. Lessons from the most prayerful nations. So what can we learn from the countries that pray the most? Take Nigeria. Despite facing poverty, corruption, and conflict, Nigerians remain some of the most joyful and hopeful people in the world. Why? Because prayer is not just a ritual, it's the glue of the nation. Families gather in prayer. Churches and mosques are filled daily. Prayer here is resilience in action. Look at Afghanistan. Life there has been marked by war and instability for decades. Yet faith keeps people anchored. Prayer structures their days, gives them hope, and offers them dignity in the face of struggle. Or consider Ghana and Ethiopia, where prayer is celebrated in festivals, woven into schools, sung in songs, and passed down through generations. It's not just about religion, it's about identity. The lesson? Prayer is not weakness, it's strength. The countries that pray most remind us that turning to God is not about escaping reality, but about finding the courage to face it. And here's the takeaway for you, the viewer. Prayer matters not only in religious nations but also in your personal life. Consistency matters. Just as nations stay strong by praying daily, you too can build spiritual strength by praying in season and out of season. As Scripture says in 1 Thessalonians 5:17, pray without ceasing. That doesn't mean kneeling all day. It means carrying prayer into every part of life, morning, afternoon, night. So whether you live in one of the most prayerful nations or in one of the most secular, the invitation is the same: make prayer your daily rhythm. Encouragement and reflection. Now that we've looked at the data and stories of the most prayerful nations, let's pause and bring this home. Let me ask you a few questions. What role does prayer play in your country? Do you live in a place where prayer is public, communal, and expected, or in a culture where prayer feels private, maybe even forgotten? Do you pray more in hardship or in blessing? It's so easy for us as humans to fall into emergency prayer. When life falls apart, a job is lost, a loved one is sick, finances collapse, suddenly prayer feels urgent. But what about the times of joy? What about when bills are paid, when health is good, when opportunities open? Do we still pray with the same consistency? Let me share a quick testimony to illustrate this. There was a young woman who, for years, treated prayer like an emergency button. She would only pray when things were desperate, exams, breakups, or family crises. But after hearing a teaching about daily communion with God, she made a small but life-changing decision. She would pray for just 5 minutes every morning, before checking her phone, before rushing into the day. At first, it felt small and even a little awkward. But over time, those 5 minutes turned into deep daily conversations with God. Months later, when she faced one of the hardest seasons of her life, the loss of a close family member, she realized she was not shattered in the same way she once would have been. Why? Because prayer had built inner strength and peace long before the storm came. That's the power of consistent prayer. It transforms us from the inside out. And here's the reminder: prayer is not a performance. It isn't about the perfect words, the longest hours, or impressing others with spiritual language. Prayer is a relationship, a daily conversation with God, or for those of other faiths, a higher power. Think of it like breathing. Sometimes you take deep breaths, sometimes shallow, but you never stop. So let this be your encouragement today. Don't limit prayer to emergencies. Let it be woven into the ordinary, the joyful, the routine. Just like the nations we studied, where prayer becomes a cultural rhythm, you too can make prayer a rhythm of your life. And here's the beauty: you don't need to live in Nigeria, Afghanistan, or Ghana to be a person of prayer. You can build your own prayer culture, right where you are. Call to action as we wrap up today's video. Let's recap what we've learned. We discovered that countries like Afghanistan and Nigeria lead the world in daily prayer, with nearly everyone praying every single day. We saw that across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, prayer is deeply woven into daily routines, uniting communities and offering strength through hardship. And we contrasted that with more secular societies, where prayer is often rare or forgotten. But here's the key truth: it's not about which nation prays the most. It's about you. Prayer is powerful no matter where you live. The real question is, will you build a lifestyle of prayer in every season? Remember this encouragement: in the morning, God renews joy. In the afternoon, He gives strength. In the night, He gives peace and rest. So as you go into your week, don't wait for a crisis to pray. Start now. Pray in blessing, pray in hardship, pray in silence. And before we close, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share your season of prayer. Are you in a season of joy? A season of waiting? A season of trial? Let's encourage each other by sharing our journeys. If this video encouraged you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder about the power of prayer. And make sure to subscribe to this channel, Daily Dose of Faith, for more teachings and encouragement to strengthen your spiritual walk. Finally, here's a sneak peek of what is coming next: the power of listening prayer, how to hear God's voice in a noisy world. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep praying in season and out of season.